Hello there, Ian Cathcart here. Um, Carrying on this week, just doing something different because it's good to do something different. I said at the beginning of the week, the kind of quote that I was focusing on, a sermon shouldn't. You'd be concerned if a sermon wasn't biblical, but equally you should be concerned if a sermon is only biblical. Sermons should never ever be just a history lecture. Sometimes it's actually necessary to get the understanding, the context. And certainly this morning's book that I'm going to be thinking about, that I'm reading at the moment, is certainly going to help you in that one. But the fact is, it can't just be about what happened back then when Jesus was around. It has to be, what would Jesus do here in this situation? What would Jesus do if he's trying to help people, but we're all in lockdown and we're not supposed to shake hands with anyone, we're not supposed to get any closer than 2 meters. What would it look like? I think one of the things we need to do is take the time that we do have, probably more time than we're used to, and watch some stuff that might be to our benefit, read some stuff that might be to our benefit, take our time more in terms of maybe stuff online that's going to analyse the world from a Christian perspective. What would that be? What would you want to read? This morning I'm looking at this book. I can't really say you've never heard of him before, or I'm certainly not working that assumption. Tom Holland is a very, very well-known author, historian, author, broadcaster. Written books, Millennium, Dynasty, In the Shadow of the Sword. It's usually all about the Roman Empire or the Persian Empire or the growth of the Christian Europe. So he's just a very impressive, powerful brain and analytical head in terms of the history of the human race, or at the very least the Western civilization. As it says here, this is Dominion, the making of the Western mind. And it's just this, let's just say if we had been going to church and I've been doing sermons, then this would definitely have featured during Holy Week. The opening chapters are all about the distinctives that the Roman Empire brought to the discipline of its population and the use of the form of execution called crucifixion. And it's got quite a few chapters on the uniqueness. And he goes into some detail about the fact that we don't know that much about crucifixion because we haven't got many sources that are detailed accounts of what happens. And he then goes on to say that we do have 4 detailed historical accounts, and I'm thinking, look at that, looking, but he's referring to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So he's somebody who brings a historian's analysis, that sense of the kind of going across the board, a kind of knowledge of all kinds of sources of historical insight. And he brings to it, well, as it says here, the making of the Western mind. His point, I don't know what percentage I would say, maybe about 10%, if that. So if I'm being honest, Robertson Davies and the Deptford trilogy, I keep on reading that a bit more, so I should be reading this more. But this is, as you can tell, if you're going to throw a book at somebody, then this is worth throwing. It's a big book. The Deptford trilogies, I should have said yesterday, this is about £4 online. This is still in hardback, and it'll put you back about £17-18. So maybe that's a reason why you don't want to read it. I think there are times, especially at a time like this, when you've got this kind of enforced kind of time where you don't have maybe as much to do as you normally do. I apologise again if you're a key worker and you're getting more to do than you can cope with. I'm really sorry. What Tom Holland does is he focuses on the fact that when he's looking at the world now and looking at the way in which the past, specifically the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire and the sort of classical empires of antiquity, how much their philosophy and ethics and legal kind of documents, medical documents, there's so much that's focused on and studied. And what he was saying was he was looking at sexual ethics and recognizing, as he was reading about sexual ethics in the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire, how completely and totally non-influential these empires were in terms of the Western world, and points to a few books in the New Testament written by Paul as being the defining set of documents that actually give the Western world its outlook with regard to sexual ethics. What's right, what's wrong, what should be punished, how it should be punished. And he does this in a way where you begin to realise there's very rarely times, it's usually BBC 4 or there's some Channel 5 documentary, there's usually all kinds of folks on TV, but it's 8 days in the Roman Empire that shook it to the core. The artistic marvels of the Greek civilization. There's all these different times when you realise what we focus on in antiquity, quite rightly so, because we've got all the stuff to look at, all the archaeology, all the written testimony from these times. He just points out the fact it's very different in these empires, in these worlds, from where we are now. And when you look at what Paul says with regard to what's right and wrong in sexuality, he's saying this is the defining set of documents. Because when you look at society, these letters written by Paul seem to have been far more influential than anything else written in any other sphere, in any other language, from any other culture. I'd never thought about that. I always tend to feel that as a Christian, in terms of influential documents and beliefs and movements from historical past, from antiquity, then Christianity's kind of weak. And we're just kind of a bit, it just, intellectually, it doesn't feel like we're in strong ground. And what he does is he just carefully, meticulously, but quite forcefully brings us back to the fact Christianity, at an intellectual level, has influenced the planet to a degree that virtually nothing else has. And whether you look at sexual ethics in particular, or just the way in which the culture of a given country grows up and defines itself, the Bible is so defining, so crucial. Now, some people will say, well, I object to this, I don't like this, I want to change this. He's just very forceful in saying, Tom Holland is very forceful in saying, if you look at our culture, we are surrounded by what is basically a Christian worldview. I don't personally feel that that's how this world looks at this world. This world looks at Christianity and sees something dated, something to get rid of, something it doesn't agree with. So if you're somebody who does like to read the big thick books sometimes, and maybe especially at this time, given the fact that they've got a fair amount of time to work with, then maybe this might be worth £18 and give it a go. Glad you're here. Glad that, let me know if these thoughts for the day have been better, worse, interesting, boring. Just get back to scripture and keep on doing the thoughts for the day in that fashion. I think what I've been doing this week has been biblical. It's just not been biblical in the normal sense of the word. What do you think? Let me know. Whatever it is you're doing, go with God, because I know He goes with you. Speak to you sometime soon. Bye-bye.